Hi guys, so this is the morning of February 28th and I think this is the last day of my cross-country skiing season. I think it's going to be 48 degrees today, so it's going to melt quite a bit. But I came here early in the morning, around 7:30, just after sunrise, just to have a final hurrah, just have a final enjoyment of nature before we move into a different season. And so this is a good opportunity for me to think about all the life lessons I've learned from winter and cross-country skiing. I have to say, when I moved here to Michigan, Southwest Michigan from Chicago, it was not a positive experience initially. I loved my job, but I hated everything about this place here. Right, I'm a city kid. I love the bus and the diversity of the city, and this is everything opposite of that. And especially the cold winters, I used to complain about the fact how I have to shovel, the snow and the gray days and the cold temperatures, and what am I doing here? So, and then something changed, right? I grew up close to the Austrian Alps, so I started skiing when I was 4 years old, downhill skiing, but I never tried cross-country skiing. So one day I decided just to rent some skis here in our county nature center in Love Creek, and the rest is history, as they say. So over the years then, as I said, I learned many lessons. Now, first of all, I bemoaned the fact that it took me such a long time to adapt myself to new circumstances. In my series on mental fortitude or grit, I talked about how adaptability is one of the key ingredients of grit, right? People who find themselves in new circumstances are able to, find, not just adapt, but learn to flourish in new environments is, I think, essential for our mental and spiritual growth. And so, I'm a guy who I think I can easily change my ideas. That's not a problem for me, but changing routines, I don't like doing that. I like my space, my time. And so when you throw me into a new environment, it takes me possibly too long to find my footing. So that's one of the lessons that I've learned, how important adaptability is. And second, after I started skiing, suddenly this complaint about winter just melted away. So from a guy who hated seeing forecast and snow in the forecast and cold temperatures, I became someone who would just be excited upon seeing the coming of a cold front and a new snow. So that was a lesson for me, right? How the very same circumstances can become very different when you look at them with new eyes. And that is one of the simplest lessons of life. We all know that. We all know the lesson about the lemon and the lemonade, and the glass half full, half empty. But it is just amazing how that capacity of the human mind to change the vantage point of a perspective, how that can completely not just change consciousness, but how one lives his life or her life. So that was a great lesson. By picking up cross-country skiing, I started developing new rituals, right? This beautiful ritual of lining up your skis, and in the, wherever if you have a basement or something, and then putting in some hot wax and then gliding, with the iron and then preparing the skis is such a beautiful thing. And this shows you how when you learn something and pick something that is good, the ripple effect becomes really it's really there, and you start benefiting all over the place. Of course, another big benefit of cross-country skiing is just getting outside And I have learned, for me personally, I like being outside in the summer, in other times of season, but working out in the cold, there's just something so amazing. You come here and it's 20 degrees, and you just have not much on you, and after an hour you are sweaty. It doesn't matter how cold it is, and just it always uplifts my spirit. And so when in the past, in the winters, I used to be kind of semi-depressed. Now winters have become actually a time for rejuvenation. So that is a good lesson that I learned. I also was reminded of deliberate practice, and I talk a lot about deliberate practice and how it connects to life. When I started skiing, as I said, I was quite good in downhill skiing, but cross-country skiing is a different beast. So initially, as most people do, you see them just basically walking on two skis. I mean, anyone can do that. You don't have to be an expert, but cross-country skiing is something different. It is more like running and less than skiing and walking. You have to learn how to balance. You basically have to learn how to balance on one foot, how to do the diagonal stride, and how to, the position of the poles. And so I would watch these videos, right, of competitions, World Cup competitions, or instructions in slow motion, and just watched how people, position their body. And then I would even sometimes record myself and do exercises. And over the last, now I believe 7-8 years, I'm certainly not a professional, but I have mastered this to a significant degree, at least to the degree that it is okay for me. I won't compete in this sport. It's just for fun. So again, this idea of how we can develop competency over time, this idea of craft, really became important for me as I mastered cross-country skiing. And then mentors, right? I mentioned the mentors on videos, but also mentors in life. I have a friend of mine, one of the most amazing people I've ever met, Victor Moreno. There's only one Victor Moreno in this world. He is so unique, so amazing, an amazing guy. And he grew up in Panama, but lived in different places, around the world, in Sweden, in Germany, speaks French, and it's just so great with languages and with music, a great pianist. And he has this fetish, right, almost, to live in Sweden, to live, if he could, above the Arctic Circle. He loves the winter. And he always would tell me, "Oh, Antonio, it is so beautiful out there." And I would, "No, what are you talking about?" And then, so learn from him to appreciate the aesthetics of winter, especially, in the morning you get out, let's say, and the sun is rising, and you look over a field, and it is just white, and the shimmering light on the surface of the snow, of the ice, and the silence, right? The winter has its special silence. Right now, I don't know if you hear birds. I think we slowly have actually, spring is slowly coming, I believe. But the stillness of winter, the aesthetics of it, and while you are in nature, it's so beautiful. For me, of course, it is also, as for many of you who like to do sports and are outside in nature, it's really about solitude. We are so inundated with information, podcasts, this and this, and even I'm recording this right now, but reading, always filling our mind with all kinds of things. Just being alone with your thoughts and with nature, it is so rejuvenating and so amazing. And not just with nature, and not just with myself, but also with God, with the divine. I never experience the presence of God as much as I do in nature. I never have questions about theodicy, questions about, evil, questions about why doesn't God answer my prayers, like doubts in my religious life, when I'm in nature and when I'm doing something. And so it seems there would be actually very interesting, and I know some people have actually studied this, how much is the rise of unbelief and secularization connected with urbanization, right? And this kind of separation from nature. I mean, that is an interesting argument to be made. Because for me, being in nature and seeing, the mist rising over the lake, you just have a tiny pond here, or just going through the trees, and you see the light coming, and there's just made the fresh tracks, and you go there. It's just, for me, no cathedral in the world can match that. There's nothing that matches this cathedral of nature. And no choir and no solo in a church can supersede the singing of a cardinal here. So this is what I've learned. And for me, nature is therefore also a type of spiritual, always pilgrimage, a kind of a religious ritual that I have. Yeah, so I wanted to share that. And I think this recording perhaps is a good coda on my other recordings on mental fortitude and grit, because this experience of cross-country skiing brings out solitude and gratitude and deliberate practice, and pushing yourself, and you think you're done, and then you say, let me do another loop, and then you find you have reservoirs of strength, and then you feel better because you've done it, because you have exercised more, but you also because you have overcome the lethargy of the spirit and giving up things. So anyway, this was a just brief Craft of Living Bites episode. Until soon. Bye.